Here we are, January 2025, standing outside of the now shuttered McDonald's, River Grove at Grand and River Road. This has been an operational business since approximately 1996, when its predecessor, the Thirsty Whale, closed. Some of the other restaurants that existed here previous to the Thirsty Whale. Of course, you had Otto's, and of course, you had the Red Steer. Recently, I came across something else I was not aware of. Mio's Franklin House. This enticed me to do some digging, and what I came up with, as always, surprised me. Let's have a look together. Mio's Franklin House didn't reveal much information besides a few help-wanted postings and ads in the Sunday paper. I started digging for information on the Mio family and quickly came upon Mio's Norwood House, just a few miles northeast. I dug up quite a bit of information and memorabilia on the Norwood House and finally came up with a name. Jimmy. James Mio was born in 1898 and grew up as one of 10 siblings on Halsted Street in the near South Side. In the 1920 census, he was already out of the house and married, but still in Little Italy, right on Taylor Street. At that time, his occupation was listed as professional musician. I'm not clear when or how he got a hold of the Norwood House, but in 1953, it was part of an expose on illegal gambling in the Chicago Tribune, and our boy Jimmy gets a mention. Various articles from the era abound, saying that the Norwood House was a hangout for the Chicago outfit, but hey, you can't always pick your clientele. However, in 1958, even the feds were doing some digging on Jimmy and the Norwood House. But all the coppers could come up with was that Jimmy also owned the Franklin House and used to be in a band. In 1961, he passed away from a heart attack. But this same FBI file also introduces us to his brother Alfred, aka Chucky, who was the co-owner of the Norwood House. Besides mentioning that Chucky was connected with somebody who goes by Needles, it mentions a third restaurant, the Villa Venice. That restaurant was in Northbrook, and allegedly Chucky was just the front owner to hide the real owner, Sam Mooney, a.k.a. Sam Giancana. The Villa Venice had been around since the early 50s, operated by a gentleman named Papa Bouche. The Mios bought the place around 1956, and the superfluous ad campaign started by Papa Bouche continued for many years under the Mio name. By 1959, Chucky's son Albert, then in his late 20s, was listed as the maitre d'. Digging deeper into the life of Albert, I came across a fourth Mio restaurant, this one in nearby Addison. Like his dad and uncle, Albert had to withstand the standard accusations reserved for Italians who happen to own and operate restaurants. This location was written up in the Tribune in 73, 74, and 1980. More than one depicted Albert with his mom, Tripolina, or simply Trip, if you had the gall to call her anything besides Mrs. Mio. It wasn't easy researching the Mios. Besides Chucky's son Albert, who we have just discussed, Chucky also had a brother named Albert, and Chucky's real name, Alfred, was also the name of Albert's brother, Alfred Jr. This was all starting to make my head hurt. Then my research turned a corner. At approximately 22:58 hours on March 10, 1948, Delta Airlines Flight 705, a DC-4, crashed and burned 150 feet beyond the north boundary of the Chicago Municipal Airport. 8 of the 9 passengers and the 4 crew members were killed, and 1 passenger was seriously injured. The aircraft was destroyed. In the winter of '48, Trip Mio and her son Alfred Jr. were on a flight headed down to Miami. 13 minutes after departure, the plane crashed and every person on that aircraft was dead, except Trip. After 7 months in the hospital, she was released. She lost 1 foot, most of the toes on the other, and had skin grafts on both arms and legs to treat the extensive burns. She learned to walk again and had 2 more children. In 1977, Albert opened the 5th and last Mio restaurant, Mio's Old Neighborhood, just a few miles down Milwaukee Road from the old Villa Venice. In a 1977 article, the author mentions that Trip stops in once in a while to see how her son is doing. Tripp passed away in 1984 at the age of 70. When she fell from the sky somewhere around 55th Street in 1948, she was exactly half as old. I suppose it's almost like being reborn, to lose everything, yet have as far left to go as you have already traveled. So today, we toast Tripp and the Mios with the signature dish from Villa Venice, veal francese. According to the menu, it is delicious, and it is only $3.95 with soup and salad. In 1973 ads for the Addison location, a musical group, The Partnership, is listed as performing 5 days a week. Luckily for us, they released an album probably around the same time. Enjoy.
I've had much of a life, ups and downs, but the fate's been kind. The downs have been few. Well, I guess you might say that I've been lucky. Yes, I guess you might say that it's all because of you. And if anyone should ever write my life story, or whatever reason there might be, you'll be there.
Put together this quick salad with a simple vinaigrette, white wine vinegar, little honey, olive oil, etc. We've got the Campari, cherry tomatoes, cucumber, radish, fresh basil and parsley, along with this boring iceberg. And now, stracciatella soup, sort of an Italian spin on the famous egg drop. May have used a bit more Parmesan here than I should have. Let's see how it tastes. Obviously, with something like this, high quality chicken stock is critical. This one came courtesy my dear old mother, just produced about a week ago from a clean out the freezer of chicken carcasses type of situation. So this is extremely gelatinous, fatty, really wonderful. And the Parmesan really changes the egg. It's a little more clumpy than just a stream like you might have with the simple egg drop, but obviously much tastier. Didn't want to go too crazy with the lemon zest because we'll have more of that with our entree. Of course, we have no idea what type of soup or salad they may have served at the Villa Venice. And I went fairly tame with the salad, but I wanted something a little off the beaten path, yet still very simple for the soup. And this came up very quickly in my research, and I'm glad that it did.
Whatever reason there might be, you'll be there. But between each line of pain and glory, 'cause you're the best thing that ever happened to me. Yes, you're the best thing that ever happened to me. Oh, there were times when times were hard, but somehow I seem to make it through. 'Cause for every moment that I spent.
All right, time for some chicken francese. Of course, need a little more vino. Very excited about this herbed orzo. Very simple, little basil, little parsley, green onion, plenty of Parmesan, butter, and olive oil. Unbelievable. Let's try this veal. A lot to think about here. Lemon is predominant. The fresh basil in the garnish along with the parsley goes a long way. That's really up front, and there's no such thing as an overload of basil for me. The egg coating without breadcrumbs is very silky, very delicate. A departure from all the other Milanese and other breaded schnitzel-like veal and chicken preparations. And that is where we end. A meal inspired by the signature dish at Wheeling's Villa Venice, managed, operated, owned, and imagined by the Mio family. Shout out to the Mio family, Jimmy, Chucky, Albert, and of course, Trip. Salute.